Thank you so much, Adolphus, for joining me on the news.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for hosting me on your program.
Thank you, Adolphus. It's a pleasure. Now, Adolphus, the presidential camp and opposition have both claimed victory in the just concluded polls. How do you think that this is going to play out for the country?
Well, for the moment, it's a wait and see game. These are two legitimate sides that are declaring victory. Meanwhile, we know that the constitutional authority is vested only in the electoral body to announce the winner or winners of these elections. But as it is always the case in many elections in Africa, the opposition and the ruling party always have the audacity to declare themselves winners in an election even before the official results are declared by the Electoral Commission. So it's a wait and see game. In the coming days, we want to know who eventually, between the opposition and the ruling coalition, who has won these elections.
Okay, now, Adolphus, there are certain contradictions. We know that the head of presidential coalitions, who is Aminata Touré, announced that they won the vote in 30 Senegal's 43 departments, like 30 of the 43 departments. And also, moving forward, it says the leader of the main opposition coalition says that it's not in Amina's place to say who won or who did not. So there's a bit of a contradiction there. Now, my question to you is, if Amina rejected the possibility of this cohabitation, what would be off the polls? What exactly do you see happening around that period?
Well, elections outcomes are based on facts and figures presented by the electoral body. It is possible that someone can object to the results, but the electoral body is going to lay out clearly who has won. They will give us figures, and everybody will know who has led in which administrative district. Of course, times are very tensed. These elections are a litmus test for the 2024 presidential election, and it is good for me to highlight that the reason why, in fact, these elections are of key interest for everyone in Senegal is the fact that the president, who is serving a second term, has not spoken about rumors that he would like to change the constitution to stand for a third term. And that's why these elections are tense, because for the opposition, if they can win majority seats in parliament, then it forms the basis for them to win the 2024 presidential election. Meanwhile, the ruling coalition wants to win because they will have the leverage to institute or introduce the necessary changes to the constitution. And so again, we know there might be disagreements arising from these elections, but it is the authorities who will be able to tell us who indeed has won the election. As it is always Senegalese, they are peaceful people, they are Democrats. Everyone will see the figures and they will realize that, okay, this side has won, and somebody will concede and the country will move on. It has always happened that way.
Okay, Adolphus, a very key factor I would like to point out is this. Now, with all the conversations surrounding the Senegal's election, the parties and the legislative, it seems like they are forgetting the key issue here, and that is the people. Now, it's said that when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. So it's looking like everybody's, the legislative, the parties are fighting, going back and forth as to who won and who did not, but they're not considering the politics of the country. So if this happens, however this turns out, how do you think that it's going to affect the politics of Senegal?
Well, it's going to have an impact. In the lead up to these elections, there had been demonstrations led by the opposition because some of their candidates were disqualified on technical grounds. They contested that, they protested, but the Electoral Commission held its position that the disqualification was not based on prejudice. It was not based on favor for any party, but it was purely based on what the law requires and what was not done in the case of the opposition. And it did not only affect the opposition, even the ruling coalition had some problems. So those who were disqualified were disqualified. Eventually, the religious community had to intervene, call on Usman Sonko, who is seen as the head of the opposition, and to call everyone to the table to dialogue and say the interest of Senegal is paramount. You can disagree, but we can burn this country. So moving on, if there is going to be any dispute arising from the conduct of these elections, it does not favor the country. It does not even favor the political leaders, and it's going to hurt the sub-region. Let me hasten to say that Senegal sits or shares borders with countries that are already at the heart of jihadist-led violence. We're talking about Mali. We're speaking of Burkina Faso. Even in the south of Senegal, Casamance, we have the MFDC. At the beginning of this year, they had clashes and some people were killed. So these elections, as important as they are to forging the democracy of this country, they are also delicate and could be a game changer as to the future of this country. That's why they are important. Everyone will have to tread cautiously.
All right, then. Thank you so much, journalist from Dakar, Adolphus Mawolo. Thank you for giving us a detailed insight into the development in Senegal's election. Thank you once again.
Thank you for hosting me.